how's it going? This is Chris Donato of Grander Marlin Sport Fishing and GZ Lures. So today we're going to be talking about the YEE Super Plunger. We're also going to talk about the Apollo. The main review is going to be on the Super Plunger though. This is a very sought after bait, probably the most sought after bait these days. YEE lures have been around for a long time, and I'm really looking forward to talking about this. I had to throw on my YEE t-shirt for this review. Joe and Stephen Kengley are good friends of mine, so I'm really looking forward to talking about this. And it's a bait that has a lot of history and quite a bit to talk about. So let's not delay anymore and let's get right into this review. All right, guys, so we're gonna be talking about the Super Plunger here first. It's a bait created by YEE. First thing we should go about is, why is it a Super Plunger? What makes it so super, right? The plungers have been around for a while. The plunger was around before the Super Plunger was created by YEE. So I have actually some footage of when I had sat down and talked with Joe about some of the baits. So I think there's no better time than now to have him explain where the name Super Plunger came from. Check it out. How did you end up coming up with the Super Plunger?
Huh?
How did you come up with the design for the Super Plunger? Is there a story behind that?
Oh yeah, I made one because who's this guy? Gene Vanderhoof.
Yeah, Gene Vanderhook. Yeah.
He had the plunger. So Peter called me up. He said, "Can you try and make a plunger?" So I didn't know how the darn thing looked like. And I sent him up to him.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, it's a big one, this.
Yeah.
It's not like Gene's." So he said, "Let's call him Super Plunger."
Yeah.
That's how I got the name. But the Super Plunger catch so many big fish.
Yeah.
Many big
The
fish.
most cool. So, as you heard, this bait was originally created, off of a different style plunger, basically the ones that Gene were making at the time, and it has since then caught a lot of granders. And it's cool if when you're over there at their house and at their workshop there, they have photos of a majority of the granders or people that have caught really big fish on it, and you'll look through and see, and it's pretty amazing all the big fish that have been caught on this lure all around the world. I mean, there's ones in Tahiti, there's ones obviously in Kona, there's ones all over the place. So it's really kind of cool to see that and the history behind that. And moving onwards, basically we're going to talk a little bit about the action of this lure, how I like to rig it, how you want to maybe try and get it to run. On a scale from 1 to 10 on how easy or difficult this lure is to run, I'm probably gonna put it up there, on the higher end of a little bit more of a difficult lure to run correctly. Now, that's not saying that if you put this lure out and you don't have it rigged properly and set up right, that it's not still going to get slammed. But to get it to kind of do what we want this lure to do in the way that we want it to run, it is a little bit more of a difficult lure to run. I think a lot of guys nowadays are buying these really just to hold on to as like a collector's item, which I can understand, but these are good lures. The reason they became famous was because they caught fish, okay? And now they're basically become such a historical bait because they've caught fish, like I said, all over in every ocean out there. So I do ask you guys, if you do get these, I know that Joe, he really wants people to pull his baits. He doesn't want all his lures sitting up on a shelf. He does want people to put them in the water. So do get out there and give them a pull. And so basically what we got here is your plunger shape, right? So as you can see, you have a down taper here. And depending, most of them are fairly light, but with that being said, these baits will run really good in the rough. you can, and I think that's why a lot of people on the East Coast have caught some great fish on them too, and in areas where you get a little bit of a rougher sea. This bait is going to, as the name implies, plunge, right? So it's going to go down. How I like to see this lure run is you're basically going to have a explosion, a puff of water, and it's going to bring a smoke trail down into an easy, kind of a smooth sort of swimming action. All right, you don't want it wiggling all over the place. It kind of just comes down, and it's sort of, you'll see a smooth bubble trail come up, explode again, same deal. And I like to get it so not every time it comes up and explodes, but some of the times it does. I like to see it almost do a little bit of a tube style skitter push. So when it comes up and explodes, it kind of drives and pushes water and skitters and explodes and comes back down with the bubble trail, you know, and then it may do that again, and then maybe it'll come up and just do a straight explosion and then go back down. I like to get that little skitter thing. I find when I can get the lure to be doing that, it gets really, it get blasted. So with that being said, how do I like to rig it? How do most people like to rig it? I know Joe is a big advocate of pulling double hooks in this lure. You know, these lures are not keel weighted, right? So yes, putting a double hook rig in this will help to create it to swim better. I personally like single hooks. And with a single hook, it takes a little bit of fiddling it to get it to be the way that you want it to really run. But that's how I like to rig it. The other thing I like to do with it is I prefer running it with the hook up. And I think that what happens sometimes if you're running it with the hook down, depending on the size of your hook, every once in a while it may overpower the bait with the hook being down, and you may get a situation where all of a sudden the lure will disappear for a little bit and then it'll come up and start running great again. Generally, if you see that happening, sometimes that's what's happening with the hook being forced down. Beyond that, you know, I just basically like to rig it regular single hook style. I want the coil coming straight up and away, coming out of it. So say this is your leader. I mean, this is chafe material, but say this is your leader. You see how your leader always has a memory as well, you know, so pretend this is your leader in the memory. Basically, I want the memory coming up and over like that, okay? If you have it out to the side like that, this lure is gonna run not correctly. If you have it down like this, it's definitely not gonna run right. So I like to have it, make sure that your coil is coming up and over when you rig it. The other thing is, you know, I see a lot of guys like to put vinyl on these, and you know, I know vinyl is super popular and vinyl's great, it's awesome on a lot of lures, and you know, it's a lot of a cleaner transition through the fish's mouth. The sound's nice, many benefits. However, and I hate to tell you guys this, I believe the Super Plunger will run better with rubber skirts, and that's something that Joe will also say. They think I think that this is the weight area and however it balances it. I've just personally had better success with rubber skirts on it. Not to say that if you're running it with vinyl and it's working for you, it's wrong, but I'm saying generally. And what I like to do actually with the rubber skirts is I put a rubber skirt over top of newels, so over top of the tough tails. And I find that you get kind of an easier slide. It's not as thick as two rubber skirts back here, less tangles, and you still get that same balance that I find that I want to get out of my rubber skirts. So, you know, other than that, I put a rubber stopper on it, mainly so I can keep my hook facing up. Positions to run this bait, you can run it on your short corner, your long corner, your short rigger. If you're running it on your short rigger, you'll want to have riggers that are not flat out like bait riggers. You're going to want to have lure pulling riggers that kind of have a bit of an angle. You want to have some angle on this to kind of pull it and keep it where you want. I personally wouldn't run it on a short corner. I prefer having it on a long corner and short rigger. For me, this has been a short rigger bait, but a lot of people will do really well with it on the long corner. And beyond that, you know, these are great baits. You know, they're still being created. Joe is still pouring these lures. I don't know what kind of rumors might be going around in the out there in the fishing world, but Joe is still pouring baits, and his grandson Stephen Kegley is helping him get these out to the public, and There are batches still becoming available all the time. You know, GZ Lures is one of the places that you will be able to find these, and we do have mostly we're getting the super plungers, medium plungers, and Apollos, and occasionally, you know, 501s, 505s, and a couple other different head ones. But the super plunger, again, sought after. With all that about the super plunger, great bait, highly recommend it. And all I can say is, if you haven't got a YEE lure yet, no better time than getting on it and getting one in your spread and getting one in your collection. So hit up gzlures.com. Good selection. Thanks for sitting through for another review. And tight lines and good fishing.